eCube Solutions. Energizing lives, renewably.
Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with yet another exciting episode of On the Grid with eCube Solutions Private Limited. This is Waleed Rana. I am country sales manager of this company and I welcome you back on episode number 9. Today we have an amazing individual who has done a lot of contributions in the energy sector, specifically in the renewables energy sector of Pakistan. This gentleman, ladies and gentlemen, is a consultant in renewable energy in National Electric Power Regulation Authority, also known as NEPRA. He has previously served as a member of the AEDB Pakistan for 16 years, which is the Alternate Energy Development Board, where he has engaged in policy making, development and implementation of renewable energy projects. His efforts laid down the foundation for interconnecting 2,000 megawatts of renewable power. He played a vital role in the introduction of distributed generation, including net metering in Pakistan. He was also involved in making regulations, preparing guidelines, and developing an implementation of mechanisms, including soft financing for distributed generations. This, ladies and gentlemen, guy is a civil engineer and a PhD from UAT Texila, where he has studied on the subject related to impacts of climate changes on small hydropower generation. He is an eminent professional having insight, knowledge, and expertise of renewable energies. He has also been very active in interacting, collaborating, and imparting knowledge during various events, activities, and panel discussions. This gentleman is a resource person for various events organized by local and international agencies, and his insight and knowledge inspire listeners. Ladies and gentlemen, this gentleman is none other than Dr. Irfan Yousuf. Dr. Saab, कैसे हैं आप? ठीक ठाक हैं?
Welcome to you and all EQ team. Allah ka shukr, very fine. First of all, I'm very thankful to EQ for providing me opportunity to be part of this August stream of podcast that EQ has organized. It's going to be, I believe, an interactive session where we'll be discussing different policy matters.
Yes, Dr. Saab, so much have you done in such a young age. This is a really, really interesting feat. Can you please elaborate what made you, follow renewable energy specifically, and why did you study in the field of renewable energy? What was in your mind back then? Because I remember back when we were young, there was no such thing as renewable energy in Pakistan. So where did this idea came from?
Actually, I got inspiration from my father. He had served in Pakistan renewable energy sector for more than 28 years. He was retired from Pakistan Council for Renewable Energy Technologies. He was named as Baba of Biogas. He has, of course, in his portfolio a number of NEPRA power projects introduced in the renewable stream, taking lead from his experience and my inspiration from his doing a good job for the preservation of the nature. That inspired me to bring this into the stream. As I graduated in 2004, I immediately joined AEDB, a big part of the pioneering team. Via AEDB, because the role and mandate of AEDB was very broad. They were in the policy making, they were in devising a new set of regulatory regime for the renewable power promotion in the country. That provided me an opportunity to develop a strong footage for the renewable power sector on the policy making side. This is a big challenge for a country like Pakistan to set appropriate policy regime, and I just wanted to took that challenge and contribute that.
अमेजिंग लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन, मैं आपको याद दिलाता चलूं कि हम आज बात कर रहे हैं पॉलिसी मेकिंग फॉर रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी ऑफ पाकिस्तान इस टॉपिक के ऊपर. और यहाँ पे डॉक्टर साहब, आई हैव द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन फॉर यू इज कि रिसेंटली COVID-19 हैज़ पास्ड एंड आई थिंक वी आर स्टिल स्ट्रगलिंग थ्रू COVID-19. सो 2020 आ गया है, बल्कि 2020 आके चला भी जा रहा है, ख़त्म होने वाला है. और काफ़ी सारी चेंजेस आई हैं दुनिया के अंदर, स्पेसिफिकली पाकिस्तान के अंदर काफ़ी सारी चेंजेस आई होंगी. सो यू बीइंग द पॉलिसी मेकर, हाउ हैज COVID-19 reshaped Pakistan's economy and especially the policy making institutions?
COVID-19 has impacted a lot of in different sectors of the economy. If I talk about particularly the energy sector, it has a very immense impact. What we have seen in last at least 4 to 5 months, there is a decline of energy demand in the country as compared to previous years, and which is one of the basic reasons that the energy sector's growth in current year has shown negative trend, and particularly in the industry sector. When the industry sector doesn't grow, then of course economy disrupts a lot. In that way, COVID-19 has impacted negatively, but there is another way of looking at it. It also has impacted import of fossil fuels, and also has indicated a new arena of thinking to the energy sector. Why is it so? We have seen there is what disruptions in the import of fossil fuels just because there was a ban on movement of the ships, and there was a delay in meeting the requirements of the generation plants required for the thermal generation, just because the orders couldn't be dispatched from the ports. That triggered a lot to the government sector, particularly the policymakers, that if there would be an immense renewable power generation existed in the country, then they would have been able to suffice the requirements of energy in different sectors of the economy. You would have seen that initially there was a delay in approving the renewable energy policy of the government of Pakistan. It took a long time, but immediately afterwards, when the things get settled, the government approved the policy of the government of Pakistan. And this policy targets, though these are considered as very ambitious, but it shows the government's thrive towards including renewable power generation into the mainstream. 30% by 2030, that means we need to bring in more than 25,000 megawatts renewable power into the mainstream. And not only on the IPP level, but we also have to develop microgrids, provide access of electricity in the remote areas, particularly those where these are lying far away from the existing lines. The intent of the government is now to promote renewable powers, bring clean technologies, reduce emissions, and increase reliability of indigenous resources. So this is basically a drive that now has supplemented due to COVID-19.
Absolutely, absolutely. So as you've already said, there was a halt in shipping process, and there was a halt in primarily every infrastructure that was focusing on multiple industries. But specific to, if I talk about renewable industry, I think we've seen a lot of good surge in 2019, the start of 2019. Where people were getting more and more interested in renewable energy systems, and especially the industrialists were aggressively pushing for renewable energy because of the international demands and because of their export criteria, and because of as a whole, because of pulling down the electricity cost generally for their industry to make cheaper goods and to be more competitive in the global market. Right after the COVID-19, when we've seen business open up again, I think there has been a little reluctance on people going to renewable energy, and because people are very a little exhausted financially. So what are the key critical strategic plannings that the government is doing in order to regain the momentum that we had before COVID times?
Jeff very rightly pointed out, and this I think if I can divide this very important question into three important things. One is financing, of course, the financing capital that has squeezed during the COVID-19 period. The energy demand is the second thing, of course. Energy demand reduced. Number third, particularly for the export-oriented industry, the orders were reduced, because of which the running time of the industries was reduced. That means energy demands have reduced for a certain period. In the time the global market is open up. Of course, it's a challenge. But however, the government has come up with very good financial solutions. What we are doing, we're pushing the long-term financing facility that was announced last year for the industrialists.
The
They
2 plus
promoted
4% Wali policy. Yeah.
The banks are now pushed to announce their products. They're coming up with very, very innovative products for financing to the industry sectors, for the domestic sector, so that the financial part can be covered. The reduced energy demand, actually, it is just transpires into a more lucrative utilization of the renewable resource. Why is it so? Because at least with the capital systems that we install on the facilities, they can meet the requirements of for the at least one shift. If they compromise upon the night shift, they can always run the day shift of utilizing solar technologies and solar potential, which is now people are looking at and trying to grab the orders from the outside, as well as getting the orders from the inside market. Switching over to solar is becoming cheaper as compared to gas-based electricity, as well as grid electricity. In order to become the competitive, they are the trend that now have seen recently, that there is a huge growth of renewable-based electricity generation in Pakistan. You would have heard more recently the upcoming Faisalabad industrial state. They've signed an MOU for bringing 700 megawatts solar power system to provide electricity to their consumers.
That's very ambitious.
In the same way, the Rashagay industrial zone, they are also looking at option of installing solar systems. In addition, the government of KPK, they have indicated providing hydro-based electricity to the Rashagay industrial zone. So this is a huge influx coming in shape of improving upon the energy profile, as well as utilizing clean indigenous energy sources for the purpose of meeting energy needs of the country.
Right. But Dr. Saab, we see very ambitious plans going around. We see a lot of encouragement to the industrial sector by the government. But on the contrary, we also see that in the global market, because of the very COVID-19 that we're talking about, oil prices, because of there was not much adequate space to store oil prices have gone down drastically during the COVID times. And even now, when you compare the prices from the before Corona times to post Corona times, the prices are still not the same. The prices have fallen down drastically. So don't you think industrialists would prefer to go to rebound to oil and to rebound to gensets, because they already have that infrastructure and they already use it in the industry, specifically in Pakistan?
And actually, in that perspective, there are two things very important. One is supply chain. As indicated, due to COVID-19, the supply chain disrupts. Due to this disruption, it was difficult for the governments to meet with the requirements of the industries as well as the power plants to keep them running. Because of this, they had to curtail the energy generation, and they went for the load management as well. And second, there was a huge reduction of the prices, and primarily that was because of the reduction of the demand. We saw there were some pits in Saudi who were selling the fuel at no cost, because if they won't sell that fuel, it will be difficult for them to keep them within their stocks.
Yeah.
But just Certainly afterwards, when the things were improving, which we saw a huge surge in the fuel price. Of course, there were some dips afterwards, and then there was a increase in the price, which indicated volatility in the market. And this volatility of prices in the market disturbs the overall economics of the industries. In order to manage that disruption and volatility, and for the long-term market strategy, this is the industrialists and the business making people, they always go for such options which give them the long-term vision of their energy profiles. And in that way, renewables are now considered as good options. I've seen FFC installing 40 megawatt, GHA installing 25 megawatts, ENI is installing 10 to 15 megawatts. A lot of such kind of interventions are now coming in just because of this intervention.
Absolutely. Dr. Saab, when we talk about these sectors installing so much of megawatts and megawatts of energy coming from renewable sources, don't you think we have we as a country, we as the government, as policymakers, need to introduce more renewable energy schemes in the country? I think currently we have just one, which is the state bank policy, and then we collaborated with the ADB. So don't you think there's a need of more policy making, more renewable schemes in Pakistan to push more aggressively and more and encourage more to the industrialists, especially and specifically the industrialists that are sitting in parts of Sindh, because over there they can't rely on the grid as per se, so they have to rely on other fuel sources, other energy sources. Don't you think we need to push and encourage more over there?
Yeah, you very rightly pointed out. As I indicated earlier, access of electricity to the remote areas, particularly, is an interest of the government, because we can't now hold back access of electricity. This is the basic amenity of life, and we have to work upon this in this direction. The provincial governments are doing a lot of efforts. I would say the government of Sindh has come up with a program for electrifying 200,000 houses in the remote areas of Sindh. In the Blusan package, the government of Pakistan is thinking to bring in the microgrids for making to give access of electricity to the remote areas. In KP, they already have been using hydro-based microgrids and systems for electrification. In Punjab, the situation is already better. However, the donors like GIZ and IFC, they have introduced systems like result-based financing for supplying solar, not for the purpose of off-grid electrification, but also strengthening the grid infrastructure, the weak grid infrastructure. So these are the things which are getting popular in these areas, and the things will going on. There's another intervention with regards to solar water pumping. A lot of things are happening in that direction. This is going to support the agriculture sector a lot. The water pumping program in KP, the Punjab, and Sindh, they're very successful for drinking and agriculture. And similarly for Balochistan, the government is now looking at converting all the 30,000 electricity-based water pumps to solar, which will of course reduce the burden or CASCO, particularly the recovery issues and non-payment issues, bill recoveries. So the things are moving on for fertilization of renewable technology. This is a market for that as well.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Things are going, I think we can all sense, and even the local masses can sense that things are going into the positive and right direction. How strong do you think is the role of leadership is in all of this scheme of things into pushing for a green and clean Pakistan?
Yeah, see, without intervention of the political regime and the leadership, it's very difficult for the general masses to follow. as you know, when this government took the office, the Prime Minister announced the initiative of Clean and Green Pakistan, and Minister of Climate Change and Minister of Power has been the flag runner of this program. They have been pursuing this Clean and Green Pakistan. And Clean and Green Pakistan means not only the clean cities, waste management, and industrial waste management, but it also include greening the energy profile of the country. We in Pakistan are currently relying upon thermal power generation. Over 65% of power is coming from thermal resources. The government is aiming to reverse this whole together, and they want to increase reliance upon the green technologies up to 65%, or rather they're targeting 70% with the integration of large hydro later in 2030s. So this is the vision of the government that basically drives. Similarly, in the same fashion, in the last 1 year, the government has worked a lot on electric vehicles with a dream to green our roads. Target of bringing 30% of the running vehicles to electrics, like EVs, is a very ambitious target, which the government is looking at. For that purpose, there are now some good incentives as well. So this is another way which the government has introduced. Previously, we tried to bring in the EVs in the mainstream, but we were finding it difficult because there was not a political will to bring them on. But since the political will is now there, we can see EVs running all around, and there at least I am personal witness to the number of EVs as well as charging stations being regulated. But now we are looking at in a perspective that we need to think two things. One is the electricity load that EVs will be posing upon the infrastructure, and second, the charging stations. This is going to be a good business in coming days. And for that purpose, we need to bring some regulatory and a category for the service providers. So this is things we're popping up just because of the vision of the leaders. Very important.
Absolutely, absolutely. But there are certain things, certain industries that require sustenance, that require sustainability in a long term. So, do you think that we can safely say that as far as the green energy is concerned, as far as specifically solar energy is concerned, all the political bodies that are running in the country are aligned on the fact that we need to push clean and green energy, we need to push renewable energy, and we need to encourage those policies. Do you think all the political bodies are aligned on this one fact?
Of course, we have heard the political stream multiple times in the National Assembly session, in the Senate, in open media, that government is all set to introduce the renewable power at all streams. The announcement of alternative and renewable energy policy last month is one of the key steps that the government has taken. They want to increase the share of renewable power to 30%. In that regard, there are two important things they have announced. In addition to the installation of new capacity, one is replacing the retiring plants with the renewable power generation, and second, displacing the fossil fuel-based power generation with the clean renewable power electricity. So these three things indicate the government is now looking at introducing renewable power at all streams, and that this is if you go by the policy, this is the first time that there's a lot of emphasis on non-public procurement like net metering, wheeling, off-grid electrification, microgrids, bringing in municipalities into the systems. They want to have municipalities-based solar systems like parking stations, like waste management systems. But these are the things which the government is now bringing in, and that indicate the vision and, of course, leadership view to introduce green technologies in the country.
Absolutely, absolutely. We all remember the time when the first net metered solar power plant was established at the Parliament of Pakistan, the National Parliament of Pakistan, in Islamabad, and it was a very exciting moment for the country because net metering had already, it set its foot in the country by that net metering of that building, and now we see that almost every knowledgeable person, every person who has access to the internet, who has access to some sort of information, knows about net metering and knows about how viable the solar has become with the advent of net metering in Pakistan. So, do you think there are going to be more and more encouraging policy related to net metering? For example, we were hearing something with regards to, and as you just pointed out as well, the unit wheeling of the same owner from plant A to plant B. So, something like that. For example, I have a sort of industrial infrastructure where I don't have much space because my industry is tower type. And then on the other hand, as in some other city, maybe I have some barren land that I want to have ground mounted solar installation with. And I can just, make my plant over there and then wheel my units back to my consumption area where there is no feasibility for solar. So is something like that happening in Pakistan soon?
See, that meeting, we're moving towards the second stage now. Initially, we had promoted a lot and wanted to bring in all the stakeholders. Now we have reached to a place where everyone is very cognizant to the fact that net metering is very beneficial. There have been a number of studies undertaken which indicate that net metering is feasible for not only to the participating customers but also for the distribution company and for the government as well, as it reduces reliance upon the imported fuel. Economically, so of course, it's very good for the government. This is one of the perspectives which I'm looking at. The other important thing is that renewable have a lot of intervention with the grassroots level, which increases is more viability because if I go by the stream of people which are involved in the solar business, they are not the very big companies, rather they are small companies, they're medium-sized companies who are doing this business. That means the solar creates a business for the small people, and this improves creates a new business for the local people, which is very good for the country as well. So in that way, renewables have a role to play in economy and as well for the country.
Right. So, Dr. Saab, absolutely right. But even then, when it's been more than a couple years when we've, since the time that we have started net metering in various parts of the country as a whole, and we see a huge potential in net metering. We see a huge potential in this process because not only do people want to relieve themselves of battery banks, but also they can utilize that solar power that they have saved during the day and save it and give it back to the grid and then use it at the night. And that is the whole charm of having a net metered solar solution at place in your house. So, but despite that huge potential and the advent of net metering, utilization of solar energy still remains in sort of the lackluster in Pakistan. Why is that so, in your opinion? Why don't people, fully, capitalize on that huge potential that net metering has brought to this country?
Um, they can be different ways of looking at how is net metering is going on. If I go by the number of generation licenses that have been issued in the last couple of years, I can see around 4,000 to 5,000 generation licenses have been issued. In last 2 months, NEPRA has issued 1,000 generation licenses. That means there is a huge demand growing among the people. Second, if I go by the import data that FBR is translating in terms of the import of solar PV panels, that indicates on monthly basis we're importing 250 megawatts plus solar PV panels. If this translates into to more than 3 gigawatts in a year. That means 3 to 6 gigawatts. In the last couple of years, we imported solar PV, and this 3 to 6 gigawatt would have been installed. At least 50, if 50% is installed all over the Pakistan, that means 3 gigawatt of solar PV we have installed. That indicates, despite NEPRA, the people are using solar energy in all the trades and all the activities. They're utilizing it. There is some issues. There might be some issues with the promotion of net metering. The people might be not fully tailored or guided about the net metering benefits, particularly in the remote areas, as well as in areas where the losses are very high, and distribution companies might be discouraging because of the internal issues or some kind of problems with regards to interconnecting consumers. However, if we go by down the stream from the center of Pakistan to the center of Balochistan and center of Sindh, you would find a lot of Shamsi plates. Why I call it Shamsi plates? This is a common name of the solar PV panels that these guys take on. And I have seen a lot of water pumping stations. I have seen a lot of oil pumps, a lot of houses going to solarization. I expect that net metering is going to reach from currently 110 megawatts to 1000 plus megawatts in the next couple of years. And this is going to happen. And the other important thing which you highlighted is regards to wheeling. Though we are still struggling to define a good pathway for the introduction of wheeling in Pakistan, as the government of Pakistan is eyeing at opening up the market and bringing the competition, this ATBCM model basically is all based upon the wheeling concept. It talks to the bilateral contracting among consumers. As soon as it is announced, this wheeling will be jumping, and we're seeing a lot of people going towards a wheeling, and there will be a lot of power generation on wheeling basis.
So would the wheeling be within a single disco, or would it be inter-disco?
It can be within the disco as well as multiple discos can be involved. It all depends upon the profile, whatever they want. Right. There won't be any embargo upon at the government side. It will be choice of the consumers how to utilize. Likewise, the Fatma Industries, what they're doing, they have their system installed in Muzaffargarh, but their clients are residing in Faisalabad. They're supplying electricity there. This is very much possible, and it's going to happen.
Right. So, Dr. Saab, how can I'd like to ask this question? How can private companies facilitate the masses in opting for alternative energy and sustainable energy solar solutions? I mean, what do you suggest all the private companies who are into this business to what should we do? What more should we do to facilitate our masses in terms of opting for alternate and renewable energy solutions?
See, at least there are three things that private sector should do. One, they should discourage low quality import of equipment. Rather, they should support government of Pakistan and all other facets of the government who are basically frightened because of the import of low quality panels into the country. The private sector has to join hands with the government of Pakistan that only quality products will be coming in. In that way, we can serve our consumers in a better way. We can improve their point of view with regards to solar technology, and they can encourage those to see solar as a solution. Second, the industrialist has to create, the private sector need to join hands with the government to create awareness among the people. They need to go down to the masses. They need to run the road shows. They need to work with the climate change or environmental agencies, particularly the NGOs, to run how effective is it to utilize solar energy to combat the climate changes. And third important thing is they need to bring up with innovative models for the consumers. As in our initial talks, it was highlighted that the capital cost is a big issue.
Yes.
Now we need to bring in the models like lease models, pay-as-you-go models, like cost-sharing models, energy services models, to tackle these kind of issues. And this is an area where the private sector needs to play a big role. We need not to do the reinventing of the wheel. We need to learn from the experiences of other countries, what they've done. We can tailor-made all those activities like in India, like Turkey, like in Egypt, like Iran,
Even South Africa,
and in South Africa. You wait at point. They have done a lot of things,
they've done a lot of things. Yeah.
solar energy at the grassroots level, and these
Yeah.
things are doable in Pakistan as well. We need to do. And last thing which I have been propagating in all levels, we need to push the government to discourage subsidy-based solar interventions. This
Yes.
disrupt the business. This disrupt the whole overall economics of the business. We need to be hand of the government, indicating that we will be the service provider of their consumers, will be the service provider of the markets where the electricity is not there, and at prices that will be competitive as well. However, let the private sector do this business. Don't disturb the market. Don't do the subsidy-based systems anymore. Let the business to flourish in those areas, and this is going to happen.
Absolutely, because the more subsidy will be provided by these companies, the more they would be inclined towards providing a lesser quality system, and that would in effect basically disrupt the whole business model of other companies, because then in order to be able to be competitive, other companies would follow suit and they would also provide solutions of lesser quality. So we always advocate for for our consumers to actually choose when doing their apple to apple comparison per se. We always ask them to choose and look for the 4 P's that we have invented, which is the people, the price, the product, and the projects. So one should always look at these 4 P's of choosing a solar providing solution based company, and then opt for a better and optimum solution. So this is what we also advocate to our consumers, and that is absolutely why people like you and I are struggling to spread awareness into opting for a cleaner, better, and design wise optimally designed and more durable solution in the long run, because there are solar panels का एक मसला है. सोलर पैनल्स अच्छे वाले भी लेंगे तो वो उसी तरह के दिखते हैं, और गंदे वाले भी लेंगे तो वो उसी तरह के दिखते हैं, और दिस कन्फ्यूजेज द क्लाइंट, दिस कन्फ्यूजेज पीपल. उनको लगता है कि अच्छा चलो ये तो एक जैसे ही हैं, तो मुझे एक जगह से अगर 3-4 कंपनीज मुझे एक रेट दे रही हैं और एक बंदा मुझे बहुत ड्रास्टिकली कम रेट दे रहा है, तो मैं उनके लिए सिर्फ एक मैसेज देना चाहूँगा, एंड आई थिंक यू वुड एग्री विद दैट, that never believe in something that is too good to be true. So उसकी तरफ ना जाएं. There's something that is less in that, वरना थोड़ा बहुत difference तो हो सकता है competition के अंदर, इतना ज़्यादा drastic difference नहीं हो सकता. There is definitely something wrong with the product. So thank you so much, Dr. Saab, for being on the show. Any last words that you would give out on behalf of your department and on behalf of the industry as a whole, to the local masses, to the ladies and gentlemen that are watching us? Any few words?
Actually, we have already entered in an arena where the climate change is impacting a lot, and if we go by our cities, they are now becoming more dirty as compared to 10 years back. We as a nation have to think, we need to join our hands. We need to all work together for the cleanliness of the country, for reliance upon the clean technologies. We need to bring upon indigenous resources into the mainstream. And I would urge to general masses, particularly to the business community, and to all the vendors in the mainstream, that they should push towards clean and green Pakistan with very good economic prosperity in future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Saab. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Dr. Irfan Yousuf, and he currently works with NEPRA, and previously he was working with AEDB. We have the links to NEPRA and AEDB attached in our caption for more details if you want to, look into what NEPRA is doing in the country and what AEDB has been doing in the country and still is. As far as the company is concerned, we have listed down our YouTube link, our Instagram link, and other links on social media handles like Facebook, where you can reach us and you can talk to us more on how you can get a great system that is built to last. This was Waleed Rana. I am Country Sales Manager, eCube Solutions Private Limited. You were watching episode number 9 on the Grid with eCube Solutions, and I'll see you in the next one. अपना ख्याल रखिएगा. Allah Hafiz and Pakistan Zindabad.
eCube Solutions. Energizing lives, renewably.